doctor. My name is Wong and my number matrix is 276999. Today I'll present the company performance and its determinants study on Fraser and Newell Holding Berhad. This slide will present the background of Fraser and Newell Holding Berhad. John Fraser and David Chairman Newell, from whence the company distinctive initials F&N derived, created the F&N Holding Berhad in Malaysia in 1883. F&N Holding Berhad is the market leader in the food and beverage producers and distribution in the areas. In 2020, F&N Berhad purchased the three Nova companies as part of its initiative to expand and develop in the other food-related markets. F&N Holding Berhad focuses in the wellness and health innovations. F&N Holding Berhad is continuing to reinforce their basics by engineering processes, optimizing resources, analyzing the price structures, or imposing the restrictions with appropriate. This slide will present the problem statement found in this company. According to the Edge Market report on 8 February 2022, the rising raw material costs reduced the F&N profitability in the first quarter 2021. The Fraser and Newell Group anticipate that the current challenging climate will persist due to the continued high price of essential raws and packaging materials, as well as uncertainty to the Omicron form of COVID-19. In addition, according to the Malaysia Reserve, F&N estimate on January 19, 2022 that the flash flood that has struck in Shah Alam, Selangor, plants damaged around 40 million ringgit Malaysia worth of finished goods, raw materials, and packaging materials. The research objective in this study is to identify the internal variables that could affect the F&N Holding Berhad's performance, identify the systematic or external factors that might have an impact on F&N Holding Berhad's performance as a business, analyze the internal and external factors that might impact F&N Holding Berhad's performance. The research question in this study is to exist a correlation between the internal concerns and F&N Holding Berhad's company performance, exist a correlation between the external conditions and F&N Holding Berhad's company performance, and also the exist a correlation between the internal and external factors and F&N Holding Berhad's company performance. This slide will present the literature review. There are three main important risks faced in this company, which is the performance risk, credit risk, and operational risk. According to Wani and Ahmad 2020, financial performance is a subjective metric that indicates how effectively an organization uses its available resources to create more money, while for the Lee 2013 defined performance risk as the possibility that the manufacturer won't perform as anticipated or won't deliver the benefit promised. The second is credit risk. According to Stefano and Mendoza in 2016, credit risk would include the variation risk or the risk of the value lost from a creditor's moving to a lesser credit rating without defaulting. In addition, according to the Kabi Hassan in 2018, the formula for the credit risk is dividing the difference between the loan charge-off and the loan recovery timeframes by the prior year's non-performance loan limits. The last but not the least is the operational risk. Operational risk can be inadequate or failing processes, people, and systems as a result of an external or internal occurrence, according to the Naudi and Chilvis in 2017. Furthermore, operational risk is the broad discipline concerns with the hazard arising from a company, people, system, and process. The methodology in this study is divided to 4 parts, which is the sampling technique as the first. The samples in this study is taken from the F&N Holding Berhad, a well-known Malaysian food and beverage firm, and analyzing the annual report data from 2017 to 2021. Second is the statistic techniques. Collect data by using the F&N 5 years from 2017 to 2021 annual reports, and then evaluate the 4 risks, which is the performance, liquidity, credit, and operational risk, while the market risk is the Malaysian GDP, inflation, interest rates, and exchange rate from 2017 to 2021. The main methodology used in this study is the linear regressions. The third part is for the data analysis. ROA is the dependence variable in these studies, while the independent variables is divided to 3, which is the internal factors, external factors, and also the internal and external factors. The last part is the statistic package for social science, SPSS. IBM SPSS version 26 was used to analyze the data taken from the annual report. This part will discuss the findings and results from SPSS. The first is the descriptive statistic tables. According to these tables, we can see that the current ratios have the mean of 79.9386, means that F&N short-term liquidity is about 7,993.85% with a standard deviation of 81.2094, indicating a big volatility in profit within the 5 years. Besides that, we have the internal factors, which is the debt-to-income ratios. Debt-to-income ratios has a mean of 0.1514, suggests that the average debt-to-income ratio in F&N over the 5 years is 15.14%, with a standard deviation of 0.1895, indicating a small volatility in profit within the 5 years. Well, for the external factors, we have the unemployment ratios. The unemployment ratios have a mean of 3.8166, suggests that the Malaysia unemployment average is 381.66%, with a standard deviation of 0.6787, indicating a small volatility in profit within the 5 years. This part will discuss the correlation tables. According to these tables, we can see that only 4 ratios that is positive correlation to ROA, which is the current ratios, GDPs, inflations, and also interest rates, while the others have a negative correlation to ROA. The most significant ratios in this study is a current ratios, have the p-value of 0.014, which is less than 0.1 and the most significant to this company. This slide will present the model summary in these studies. The first is the internal factors. According to the tables, there are only 3 out of 6 contribute to the F&N return on assets, with an adjusted R-square of 0.906 or 90.6% of dependent variables, which are operating margins, current ratios, and also operational ratios. While for the external factors, also 3 variables contribute to the company return on assets, with a R-square of 0.33 or 33% of the dependent variables, which are standard deviation ratios, interest rate ratios, and also the GDP ratios. Their remaining variables have no bearing on these studies. The last is the internal and external factors. The 3 variables contribute to the return on assets with an adjusted R-square of 0.798 or 79.8%. On the other hand, the remaining factors do not matter to our investigations. This slide will show the coefficient tables. The first is the internal factors. According to these tables, with p-value of 0.107, 0.457, and also 0.268, this study shows that the current ratios, operational ratios, and operating margin are not significant to return on asset. They have no bearing on F&N company performance. While for the external factors, this study shows that the gross domestic products, interest rate, and also the standard deviation are all negatively significant, with p-value of 0.722, 0.725, and also 0.927 respectively. A same study conducted by the Moser and Asraf research from 2012 revealed that the real GDP has a negative impact on bank profitability and is insignificant, same as these studies. This slide will present the ANOVA tables. The ANOVA tables which has the internal factors, external factors, and also the internal and external factors. Based on the result from SPSS, these 3 models fit is not significant to F&N holding Berhad since the p-value is more than 0.1. This part will present the discussions and conclusions of these studies. Discussion of results. The internal factors are the most effective predictors of performance risks, while the external variables are less likely to explain the F&N holding Berhad's performance risks. The adjusted R-square suggests that the internal variables included in the models might account for 90.6% of the return on assets. The recommendations for F&N holding Berhad is that current ratio is the most influenced independent variables on return on asset of F&N. F&N should take steps to improve its current ratio to enhance the performance of the company. The first step, F&N can reconfigure debts, repaying or restructuring debts with raising the current ratios. The second step is the F&N can keep improving asset management by opening a swap account, which allows the company cash on hand to accrue interest while trying to remain available for operating costs. The last is the F&N can reduce the expenses in the company. Thank you for the attention.